In tonight's tale, I'm going to tell you about the Mothman. The Mothman is legendary, and every legend has a beginning. And this one starts hundreds of years ago with an Indian by the name of Chief Cornstalk. Ever since I was a kid and going camping and being around campfires, me and my friends would always tell stories. And one of those stories was of the Mothman that was originated in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And I figured it was about time to read up on our good old friend the Mothman and to look at some of the places current day of where this all took place. In front of you is the Silver Memorial Bridge. This bridge was built to replace the original that collapsed. On December the 15th, 1967, around 5 p.m., the Silver Bridge began to shake and jolt with cars packed on the bridge. Just a couple minutes later, in all, 31 vehicles went into the Ohio River that day, sending 64 people into its 44-degree waters. Of those people, 46 died. The collapse to this day remains the deadliest bridge disaster in the United States history. Once you cross the river and you're in Point Pleasant, head on over to Crodell Park and you will see a replica of the fort where it all started. During the Revolutionary War, the death of the Shawnee chief by the name of Chief Cornstalk, he was killed here and murdered. He was a very charismatic person amongst the people of the Indian, and even the white man liked him. And his death would be very controversial, and many people would claim that he cursed the land. And then, this is where the legend of the Mothman was born, as many would believe that the Mothman would avenge the death of Chief Cornstalk. Welcome to Point Pleasant, West Virginia. This is the real Point Pleasant, West Virginia. For those people that know, in 2002, there was a movie called The Mothman Prophecies starring Richard Gere that was based on the story of the Mothman. It was based off a lot of books that was written and eyewitness accounts, and the movie was pretty good, but there was a lot of fiction added because it was Hollywood made, and Hollywood wants to sell movie tickets. But if you were to get in your car and head on over to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, this is exactly what you would see. This is me on a normal day walking down the streets of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. The people there are friendly. This guy, he talked to me, and he had plenty of vintage cool stuff in his shop. They sell plenty of Mothman memorabilia. Even some of the shops sell like Mothman cookies, Mothman pizza, just a lot of things dealing with the local legend of the Mothman. And there's lots of dineries. It's a very kind of small, laid-back town. And, you get a friendly feeling in the town. Okay, in the center of the town, it tells you about the Silver Bridge collapse. And you can read that plaque there if you want. You can actually pause the video, and it will give you quite a bit of information about the bridge collapsing in 1967 and why it collapsed. And this is actually the memorial set up, and it's in the middle of town. And you will see that there are bricks here. Here's a plaque, and it tells about the 46 lives lost. And there are bricks with the people's names on them right below it. So this is a very sombering place. Next, you will see that there's a flood wall, and right behind that of the memorial, you will see that someone has painted where the Silver Bridge would be. You can see it's located close to the train bridge. And it's kind of ominous and just a weird feeling to know that that's where the bridge would be. Right here, this is the plaque that was donated by the county commission. And you can read, if you want to, what it says. It gives you some information about the Silver Bridge. Next, here are the destinations in the small little town that you can go to that has to do with the Mothman and some things to do, some activities. Here is the first and only Mothman Museum. And of course, this museum became more popular as the film came out. And this is also where you can go in and get a map to go to the TNT areas where the Mothman was first spotted. You can see some of the props and everything inside of the shop. It's very unique and very creative. You can even go in and go into a Mothman museum. It does cost a little bit of money, but it's well worth the money. And it gives you a wealth of knowledge about the Mothman. Now, right beside the Mothman Museum is the center of town. And in the center of town, it would not be proper without a statue dedicated to the Mothman himself. This is that statue. And a lot of people come from all over the world to have their pictures taken with this statue that is dedicated to the Mothman. This plaque tells you the legend of the Mothman. If you want, you can pause the video and read about it. Now, some funny things about the Mothman that I just had to show you. A lot of people say that he has buns of steel. Does he? You're probably asking. I'll let you be the judge of that, okay? We're just going to do a 360 on the camera, and we'll see what you guys think. This is a back view of the Mothman, and we're just going to continue on around so that you can see kind of a closer look at the Mothman statue. Okay, as I continue downtown, you can see it looks just like an older type of town. But like I said, and you can see that it is a very friendly town, and it's very laid back. And for the most part, it's peaceful and quiet. It's not a really big populated area, so there's not a whole lot of people at any given time. It feels like a suburb sort of setting, kind of vintage, if you will. And it doesn't look anything like in the movies. It's actually a very small town in a very small area. Not saying that that's a bad thing, just that I don't think you could really tell that by the movie. You can also see that they rely heavily a lot on, the Mothman and memorabilia sales and, things of that nature. The people are very friendly there. You can see that there's memorabilia, there's a Bigfoot, and then there's a Mothman flags in this window here. And there's just Mothman everything in the town, like Mothman cookies, like I said before, Mothman pizza, Mothman shirts, and even once a year there's a Mothman festival that kicks off, which is very popular and a lot of people go to it. Now, do you remember in the movie the hotel? Well, as I'm walking down here, you will see that the hotel is called the Low Inn, and it looks quite a bit different than what it looked like in the movie. See, here is the hotel, and it looks a little more vintage as far as the architectural structure goes, but it's just a lot different. Actually seeing all of these things in person, the real deal, than rather a movie and what has been made up. Which the side of the Silver Bridge collapsed December the 15th, 1967. 46 lives lost. And behind there, if you guys are looking for it, it's about this close to the train bridge that crosses into the Ohio River. It is on the West Virginia side in Point Pleasant. What you're seeing here is where the Silver Bridge stood, right beside of the train bridge, and a shot of the city and the replacement to the Shadle Bridge, I believe. Once you head behind the flood walls, you're going to see all of these actual beautiful painted murals all over the flood walls. And what these murals do, they serve as not only a decoration to complement the town, but it also tells the story of Chief Cornstalk and Lord Dunmore and the Revolutionary War. And oh, did you look at that sunset that I caught? I just had to say that. That's a beautiful sunset as the sun's going down. But anyways, these murals and these statues, that's actually a statue of Chief Cornstalk, by the way. And there are more statues. They tell a story of General Andrew Lewis. Anyways, it tells the main characters and how they came to be. The Shawnee Indians, Chief Cornstalk, and the war that happened in Point Pleasant. How Chief Cornstalk was killed. And the story of how the curse came upon the city. Here is Lord Dunmore. And he was in charge of the war. And you can see on the murals how the drawings depict that. And it will tell the story of Chief Cornstalk's demise and how Chief Cornstalk supposedly put a curse on the town of Point Pleasant. And many believe that is how the Mothman came to be. That the Mothman is an avenger of Chief Cornstalk. Other people claim that the Mothman is actually an alien, and around the times in the 1960s, during the Mothman sightings, they claimed that they saw UFOs. Now here is the park behind the flood walls, the Tiundiwi State Park. And actually in this park is the final resting place of Chief Cornstalk himself. Now it is said not all of his remains are there, but a jawbone and some teeth, I believe, are what is in his final resting spot. But this is where his grave is. In fact, here is his grave here. Chief Cornstalk, 1727 to 1777. You can see that they have a monument set up, and this right here explains about his remains. Again, you can pause the video if you want to read about it, and it will tell you all about that. Now this park over behind the flood walls is very beautiful. Here's a great shot as the sun is setting, and there's the clouds, and the sun is casting off of the stone monument. I definitely recommend you guys going there and checking it out with the whole family even. And then as you walk to the end of the park, you will see there's a place to sit down in the shade comfortably. And then in the distance, in the view, you can see the Silver Memorial Bridge. And that is the bridge that was built to replace the one that collapsed in 1967. Because it was built so that there would be another way for people to get back and forth from West Virginia and Ohio. A way to rebuild and move on. So at this point, I had a map, and I was ready to go and check out the TNT areas. And that is what I got from the MothMan Museum, is this map. And it showed me exactly where to go and how to get there to go on a hunt for the Mothman. Would I find him? What would I find? So after following the map and going to what they call the McClintock Wildlife Refuge, that is where the TNT area is located. Some of these are private property now, but the map that the man at the Mothman Museum gives you if you ask for it lets you go into the one that you can still access publicly and not trespass. So you can go on this adventure looking for the Mothman himself. And this is actually where people would park, like a lover's lane of sorts, back in the 1960s, and where people first spotted the Mothman. Also, what this place was used for, I know it looks kind of marshy and a little bit gross, and I remember this day that the sound of the marsh sounded like Rice Krispies under the sun. But what this place is used for is for these dome-like structures. And, people just call them the domes. And that is where they used to store military ammunition during World War I. And a lot of speculation goes that there could have been other military secrets stored in these domes, and that the Mothman could have been guarding them, or that the Mothman could have actually been like a first drone, if you will. So that is another theory, is that the Mothman was a drone surveying the place. Like I said, other people thought that the Mothman was an alien, and some people think he's the curse of Chief Cornstalk. Oh, when I was walking this way, I caught a pretty glimpse of nature here. As you can see from the butterflies, it was starting to rain, and if you look right here, I had just found the entrance to the very first dome, but I had forgotten our flashlights and equipment. So we decided to go back, get our equipment, and grab other people that wanted to come with us on the mission to hunt the Mothman and to come back at night. And that's exactly what we did. With our equipment ready and in larger numbers, we were ready to return at night and to hunt down the creature known as the Mothman. Under here is the secret place. Look, there's no... Yeah, but there's no rain back in here, guys. Oh. Look at this, guys. Can you hear that? You want to play some music in here? You are my son, aren't you? Oh. Smack me in the head with that. Dude, I didn't smack nobody in the head. Now listen. And I'll try to regularly talk. Just talk regular and hear what it does. Yeah. Do you hear the acoustics in here? You guys like this, don't you? During World War I, they used to keep ammunition in here. How are you doing tonight? You ready to see the Mothman? What about you, Bobby? You ready? Can you hear that? Look, there's the exit. Here's this side. And just see what it looks like when it's dark. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Now, is that dark?
I could like that.
Did you guys hear that?
Yeah, I hear you making it.
It's a moth that flew over by that wall. See, up here is the top. What is it? Hey, at least that's a good message right there, guys. And look, right here is the entrance and exit to the doorway. They used to store ammunition in here. Hey, there was these worms on the door earlier. Doesn't look like they're there now. Oh, here they are. Right here. Look at these worms. All over this. See, they're all over the place, all over that door.
Yeah, I'm not running over there. You can go do that by yourself.
Guys, it's real muddy right there.
You think?
There was no mud here earlier. Hey, now go right.
No. Why did it have to be this one? What's up there?
There we go.
I can see this next one before we go back to the car.
Yeah.
What was that?
Huh?
What are these bunkers for?
They held ammunition. This one has the cap out of the top of it.
This one's for one.
This one says right here, "Run, bitch, you will die." And it has a pentagram on the floor.
That's actually kind of messed up.
Well, that's an inappropriate word. Isn't that also an inappropriate word? It's a beer can. There's a spray paint can over in this area too.
Does that have anything in it?
I don't know.
About to find out.
Hey guys, it's not raining in here. Where does it say?
2K19. You know what that means, right?
It says Matt, call for a good time, and there's a phone number there. You're gonna call it. Is this over here? Is it SpongeBob or what?
What does it say? Howdy, y'all.
What is it? Tall boy? Three, 4, 18. At the top it says, guys, I'm not joking, it says something to a duck right there. In our final conclusion, throughout the night, we heard some really messed up things. Some of it, I would say, is supernatural. Some of it, maybe it could have been our imaginations. I don't know. But either way, we had a lot of fun, and we plan on going back and trying to find the Mothman again, as we did not find him this time. But he's probably just lurking out there somewhere. Until then, these country roads are going to take us home, as they say in West Virginia.